in Australia, in Brisbane where I come from, quite a few Aboriginal women who I have worked with over the years, have been interested, and I have been very interested myself in the whole idea of the Women's Institute, the English Women's Institute. I've heard about it. I've heard that it's very old. I've heard that it does all kinds of community things and so on. And for us, the very idea of women's business that's a cultural thing, it's a proper thing. And I thought in this opportunity in this research project, I thought I'd find out as much as possible, because actually we're trying at the moment to construct a formal structure that sounds actually very much like a women's institute. We'd call it a Queensland Women's Council. So it's more to do with policy, more to do with what do you call it? Advocacy. Mm-hmm. Advocacy work. You know, what Aboriginal women want: young girls, the well-being of women and their families, all kinds of stuff. You know, but every day-to-day stuff too. Mm-hmm. You know, so I was wondering if I could ask you both, you know, what you know about it, and could you help me understand a lot more so I can take it back?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, certainly, I'm a very recent member of my local Women's Institute. My grandmother was one of the founder members of the institute in Wingates, where they used to live, in one of the farms near there. And my mum was a member for a period of time of the institutes. And my mum's actually gathered a few things together for you, which some of them are quite old, so there's probably updated versions which you'll be able to get, but I think the principles are the same. And basically it was developed in the rural community to kind of support each other from a women's point of view. I mean, men were invited along to some things as well, but the main sort of stay of the thing were the social things men came to. Yes. But it was really, you know, very much focused on women. Yes. And some of it was as a support network for people who maybe weren't sort of didn't have the same advantages, or you know, and it was exchanging ideas and that kind of thing, but also being supportive in a social kind of aspect as well, so that people didn't miss out if they didn't have the finance to do things.
And did it actually come out of the First World War or before that? Because I know of other organisations.
I think it was after. I think it was around that time, definitely. Yeah, but I would have to kind of look that up. I'm not really sure. Yeah. But there's this one about procedure at meetings, which you might find useful. Just
I would find that we would find that useful.
And obviously,
yes,
you know, adapt them to
our cultural needs. Yes, thank you.
There's a really old. They get sort of programme every year, and as I say, these are old ones. Things like membership cards, which I'm sure are updated now, but it's the extracts from the rules. So each member has a membership card with, you know, an extract of the rules and things that are on. Yes. There is different programmes. I mean, there's a selection here. This one was my grandmother's, which is actually from 1925, which is quite a while ago. Yes. So there's a few things there that you can.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Have a look at, and also this is one of the Federation badges, so it might give you an idea of. Again, this is an old one.
An old badge. So it's been updated or redesigned, has it? Or?
I'm sure it will have been. I'm sure it will have been. But just a bit of an idea of some of the things that you know you can do. Yes. And I mean, I know the one that works in my village now in Newbiggin. For example, the actual hall that they hold it in is owned by the Women's Institute. So they can then use the hall for other things and let that out to other community activities.
So they own property?
Yeah, well, they own that one in that particular village. Other times they're in town, like, you know, what do you call them, town halls and...
social venues.
Yeah, social venues. They also lobby government as well. It's not just like old jam in Jerusalem.
Yes.
You know, they have issues that they're actually lobbying government with. All sorts of social issues involving women, children.
So they're advocacy and proactive.
Yeah, very much so. much so.
I think it's on both levels as well, isn't it? I think my mum joined when we were in Netherwicton as well. She joined the Netherwicton group.
Yeah.
But it was something social to do, because you can feel
And that's
living
good.
on a farm, you can feel isolated.
Yes, yes.
And if you just moved into the
Yes.
area, you need those connections for survival. You know, if you get
Yes.
snowed in, you need to be able to
That's right.
know you
yes.
can pop over to the next farm and ask for some milk or bread.
It's very much a sharing
Yes.
of resources, really.
And isolation comes in all kinds of forms, Not just like distance and locality,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
someone can be isolated in a suburb.
I think it was really people looking out for each other.
Yes, women
You know,
looking
very
out for
much
each
so,
other.
very, you know, within areas,
Mm.
you know, looking out for your neighbours and your friends and
Yeah.
other members of the institute. Mm.
And strengthening local communities
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking about community organising, community development in general, and your experience in that, in the community development or community organising, is it a kind of half and half, like men and women? Because this is another thing that we're going to be keeping in contact for quite a while, working these things out over time, methods and so on, and Aboriginal women have always been involved with community development work. So the idea of, say, Aboriginal women learning and forming their own community organising structures too, to have more formal training, pick up more formal skills, and via the Women's Institute would seem like a great, it would be great. It's a learning all round, for us. Is it? But is it?
Yeah, community
mainly women?
organising that I'm involved in and the community development side of things, very balanced. There is a lot of, there's men working within community organising and also women as well. And yeah, it is, I think that is important. But it also, I think it's important to have groups that are just for women and groups that are just for men.
Yes.
Because you know yourselves, when you're sitting down
Yeah.
with all the girls,
Yes, that's
you
right.
have completely different
Yeah, totally
conversations
Completely different. Yes.
as you do in a mixed group. And
In
then
a mixed
again, I'm
groups.
sure the fellas talk about,
It-
they'll
I'm
have different,
sure. I'm
different side
sure.
of their personality showing.
And to me, it's always been really important not just to sort of get together to talk about problems all the time, but just simply like
Just a
cultural, yarn,
Yeah.
a laugh,
Yeah.
just for any reason whatsoever. Talk about kids and family and,
But have some,
old
fun
times, good
elements as
times.
well.
Fun elements,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think the Women's Institute does have the more serious
Yes.
campaign issues,
Yes.
but then also the lighter things and
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
where you do get
Yeah.
a chance to.
I mean, the other day there was a ukulele band on, which is quite light.
Who's a ukulele band? Women? Oh, no. all
No,
together.
that was
Oh,
just
right, okay.
like visiting.
Visiting ukulele,
but
yeah.
just for entertainment.
Yes.
So you had the entertainment, but then you had, sort of the conversations and the discussions afterwards, which that kind of raises, within
Yes,
within the community. Yeah.
Well, is that movie Calendar Girls? Calendar Girls?
We're
Is
not
that a
doing
Women's
that.
Institute?
Yeah, that was.
That is Women's Institute. Yeah, I don't know if Aboriginal women will go for maybe younger Aboriginal women might. I don't know if all of us would. The idea of the Women's Council, the Aboriginal Women's Council in Brisbane, we would come together in particular organisations, maybe with one of the, at this stage, we don't know, one of the Aboriginal women's organisations, or ID&D, Indigenous Directions and Development, which is a community development organisation, basically. So we probably would come together there to discuss, to kick off, to get the idea rolling and so on. And, several women have been waiting for this, just things have gotten in the way of it, but we are determined to start this year, and we're going to be on keeping in touch, us three, to discuss this, or keep you going, informed about how we do it, how is it going, and problems and difficulties, your advice. We've formed a friendship and a relationship now, so we can, share some. If I can share some of those things with you,
Maybe we
'Cause,
could do a Skype talk at one of
Oh,
your
yeah.
women's meetings.
Yeah.
That would be a fantastic idea.
Well,
if
as
we
I get more
Skyped.
into it as well,
Yes,
I
yes.
might be able to get more
Yes.
of the
Yes.
modern stuff.
Yes, yes.
Modern
Oh,
stuff too.
yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
fantastic.